Hey there, Psychonauts. So today I'm going to tell you about my recent experience having a DMT trip while on LSD. So I was on 200 micrograms of LSD and a little over 3 hours into the experience, which for me was just slightly after I felt that I had peaked. I decided it's time to go for the DMT. Now, I had planned this out, but it still took a period of me working up the courage to do it before I finally went for it. The device was pretty fully loaded with DMT, but my game plan was to just take one big hit, as big as I could, and just hold it in for as long as I could. So that is what I did. I didn't want to mess with multiple hits for various reasons, but I took my big hit of DMT and then I laid back on my bed and I let the experience wash over me. So there were a few things that I noticed were different about this trip from my normal DMT trips from a sober state. And first of all, the trip was extended, both in its duration and also it just had this effect of feeling more spread out. And it seemed like there was a gentler come up and it seemed like I had more time to adjust myself to the experience. And I remember I said something during the trip. I said, "It's okay, I'm already here." And I don't really know exactly how to interpret that, but it kind of emphasizes this feeling of the experience being more spread out. In a way, it was kind of more all-encompassing, but it definitely lasted longer. And at the end of the experience, I felt that I was able to pull it back more easily. Another thing I noticed about this experience is there were more open-eyed visuals than usual. Typically, I have my eyes closed for most of my DMT trips, almost the entire time. But this time I had my eyes open for a decent amount of the trip, and I definitely noticed more intense open-eyed visuals. During the peak of this trip, I remember I had my eyes open and I could just like watch my room disappear and be completely replaced. Like no sensory information was left from my room and it was just completely different. Reality had been replaced. And this didn't last too long, but there was that slight second where open-eyed, I couldn't really see any of my room. I also noticed that the LSD seemed to have an effect on the DMT visuals in a variety of ways. Like for instance, I could close my eyes and see some of the closed-eyed DMT visuals, and then if I opened my eyes, I would see like an after image of what I just saw with my eyes closed. And so the LSD seemed to be like playing off of the DMT visuals, which I found interesting. I also did observe entities this time. I will just say that they were pretty much like the machine elves, or this time I kind of wanted to just call them the clockwork elves, just because that's what they seemed like they were. They were just these little entities playing around, tinkering around, and for some reason, I did feel a bit more distant from the entities this time than I have in previous encounters, so I'm not sure if the LSD had an effect on that, but they were still there, and I very much felt that they were observing me. And also, I got these weird sensations that they were like playing around with me. I kind of felt like they were like poking me or prodding me. I kept getting these weird sensations of like somebody being right next to me or somebody touching me. It was kind of weird like that for a while. And this brings me to the main theme of this trip, and that is this impression that I started having that I was in some sort of womb, or I later described it as some sort of like cosmic egg in this hyperdimensional hatchery. I don't know, I very much felt like I was enclosed in this womb or this egg, and these entities were surrounding me and they were kind of like poking me and playing around with me. And they knew, and I knew too, that someday I was meant to come out of it and be born or hatched into another dimension. It was very strange. That was like the main impression that the trip gave me. I remember like as I'm coming out of this experience and I'm starting to become more aware of what was happening, I just remember like observing my visuals, and I was thinking to myself, like, what would evidence of a higher dimension look like? And I kept asking myself that question, and I was like asking, would it look like what I'm looking at or what I was seeing and experiencing? Is that what evidence of a higher dimension would present as? And that was the question that this trip left me with. And that's the end of the experience. I will say I had read a book recently called Alien Information Theory, which I'd really recommend. And it kind of makes this argument about how reality is this code programmed by some alien hyperintelligence, and that DMT like gives you access to these orthogonal dimensions of reality. And I don't know, it was a really cool book. I really liked exploring that idea, so maybe that had a little bit of an influence on my trip. Let me know if you've ever done DMT on LSD and what it was like. What do you think of any of these ideas that I took away from my trip? The idea of the cosmic egg, and also just DMT granting access to higher dimensions. Let me know your thoughts on that, and that will be all for this video. You all will see me in the next one.